Welcome. My name is Damon Brown of DamonBrown.net. My main thing is helping you as a side hustler, a solopreneur, or otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. I'm excited to have y'all come through. This is the Bring Your Worst show. I've been going strong for several weeks now, man, months now. I think we've been, I keep on saying we, but it's just me. Um, I think I end up launching this show, and it's every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. I think I launched it in October, November, got serious about it around Christmas time. So around December, and I've been coming to y'all live every single Wednesday and some bonus episodes. And then I have recorded episodes every Monday and Friday. Feel free to come through. Um, you can go ahead and we're going to be talking about raising your IQ today, or EQ. And you can subscribe for free right now at youtube.com/BrownDamon and the rest of that, or you can do youtube.com/BrownDamon and just click on the subscribe button. Up to 100 episodes now. This might be the 100th episode. I lost count, but it's an exciting time. I'm an author of the new book, Build From Now, How to Know Your Power, See Your Abundance, and Nourish the World. Is available everywhere. It's still fresh off the stands. I actually run my own imprint called Bring Your Worth, same name of the show. And I talk about the different ways that you can maximize your resources, which, if you can see at the bottom, is focus, agility, time, and energy. I call them the fates. And if you know what your main resource is that you have the most of right now, that abundance, then you can tap into it and make great stuff happen. If you want to learn more about the book, you can take the free quiz at buildfromnowquiz.com, and you can learn what your big strength is. It's free. It takes 2 minutes. We're approaching about 1,000 people that have taken it. The quiz just launched a few months ago, so you guys are really supporting it, which I love. And I love that I'm able to give y'all some insight. If you want to learn more about the methodology, if that's the right word, using big words today, methodology behind Build From Now, you can check out my new TED Talk. It came out a few months ago, right around the time the book came out. That link is right there. Check it out. It's like 15 minutes long. It will give you insight into what I talk about in the book. And again, you can take the free quiz to learn more about it. All right. So as I revealed earlier, we're talking about EQ today, or emotional intelligence. People also call it EI, but EQ is kind of taken over because it's kind of like a parallel to IQ, or emotional, or IQ is a intelligence quotient. And so it's kind of like the emotional quotient, if you want to use that term. Emotional intelligence is this. This is my definition of it, not from any expert, but from listening to and reading the experts. Emotional intelligence is you being able to look at the context of a situation and react in a certain way. And so that doesn't mean that you're not going to have a certain feeling. That doesn't mean that you're going to deny your feelings. It means, as a mentor, Bernard Johnson, said recently, it's navigating that gap between what you're feeling and having that gut response, and then actually what you're going to do to it, right? So what you're actually going to do. That gap is what defines emotional intelligence. And so I have two little kids. They're 8 and just turned 5. So if they came in here and stepped on my foot, which isn't, if you're around kids at all, that's not unusual. That's not an unusual situation. They step on my foot because they think it's funny. My first feeling is like, wow, that hurts. That sucks. I'm really mad. But that gap might turn into, sweetheart, don't do that because that hurts a lot. That doesn't mean that there wasn't pain there. That doesn't mean that I wasn't feeling frustrated or angry. That doesn't mean I felt like it was malicious. But my reaction, like how I respond to it, that's different. That gap is emotional intelligence. And that really became a big discussion with one of the books I'm going to highlight today, where it really got set off. It started, let me take that back. Emotional intelligence really started to take off about a decade ago. But the books and the discussions about emotional intelligence have been happening for a couple decades now. In fact, like I said, with one of the books that I'm highlighting, it's actually a little bit old. And so we're just getting to the point where we're realizing that emotional intelligence actually does rank similar to IQ. And I'm a little bit young for this, but the generations before me, because I'm a Gen X, Gen Y, I'm in that generation. Generations before me, the Mad Men generation, IQ was everything. It's like, who's the smartest guy? And it was usually a guy, because of the issues that were happening at the time, particularly here in America. Who's the smartest guy in the room? All right, well, then we're going to depend on him. and they could be a jerk. They could not be cooperative. They could be selfish. They could be mean. Shout out to Adam Grant, where he talked about his best-selling book, Give and Take. That's a whole discussion about that. And with my generation, and that's part of Silicon Valley, where I lived several years ago, and I had done my startups and stuff. A lot of the companies now are having a no a-holes rule, and you know what that stands for. So having that rule is basically saying you could be a genius, you could be the next Elon Musk or whatever, whoever is considered smart right now. But if you're a jerk or if you're mean to people, we're not going to have you. That's representing emotional intelligence, right? So I think that's the best definition I can give. The books I'm going to lay out here will actually give a better definition, because I am no emotional intelligence expert, but the people I'm going to highlight actually are. So let's go and get right into it. And before I do that, again, my shows every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I have special playlists curated just for y'all. Took my time with it. I've been working on the channel for, like I said, months now. And so it's highly curated now. You know, got a lot of the kinks out. So thank you for your patience. If you're an early subscriber, you saw some stuff. I appreciate your patience. You can actually see me because my lighting is straight and all that good stuff. I have a playlist that's dedicated to emotional intelligence. It's like all kinds of good stuff in there. And if you click on that, right now it's about a dozen videos. All the videos on the Bring Your Worth channel are relatively short. And so even this live program is going to be less than a half an hour. That's my commitment to y'all, because I can talk. So doing that. But the actual shows, the recorded shows, which are every Monday and every Friday like clockwork at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time, they're between 5 minutes and at max 20 minutes long. So it's a little bite. It's nothing, not a big commitment. If you're trying to get schooled or get insight into emotional intelligence, you want to understand, be sure and subscribe, and then just click on the playlist. And again, it's like 11 videos. You can watch it, you know, while you're eating lunch or whatever, and just chill out. And it's not intensive. It's nothing heavy. Nothing will be asked of you. It's all free, like I said, and you'll be able to get some of that game. All right, so let's dive into it. The first book I would recommend would be Emotional Intelligence by the father, at least as far as in the pop cultural space. Let me phrase that properly, is Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. That's Goleman. Shout out to the folks on Amazon Live. Yeah, hi Nanette, what's going on? Sorry, I can't put your comments on here, but I do see you. So thank you for getting into the program. And so if you're watching on Amazon Live, you'll see the link on there to Emotional Intelligence. There's a new one called Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by another person. I want to say Travis Blackberry or Burberry. I can see his name, but I can't quite get the letters. If I would have known, I would have, or would have thought about it, I would have put the link up there. But this is, like, as we say, the OG, the classic. I want to say this came out like 15 years ago. And this is the book that really put emotional intelligence and EQ, I believe Daniel actually calls it EI now, but EQ into the fabric. So if you want to understand what emotional intelligence is, this is, again, the OG, the classic one. Start with this. So grab the book. It's available everywhere. It was a bestseller at the time. But like I said, the book came out. It did fine. But then we didn't really start getting into the book until about 10 years ago. Again, when I was living in Silicon Valley. And I started hearing founders of billion-dollar companies saying, we're not going to have any a-holes here. You hear someone at Google or at LinkedIn or whatever saying, oh, yeah, that person's a genius, but, you know, but he or she is mean to everybody. So then it becomes a separation, which is a whole another discussion I talk about again, in the Bring Your Worth channel at youtube.com/BrownDamon. It's a separation between achievement, like this is the best programmer in Silicon Valley, we're going to hire him or her, and culture. If he or she is an a-hole, do we want that bad apple? Do we want that toxicity in our culture? And that's so what we've really done, which is a great time to be an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur twice over. I'm a one-on-one coach now. You can go to Damon Brown and see what's going on. And it's so beautiful to be involved with entrepreneurship now. And it's not just about achievement. It's not just about making the most money, which I love money too. I got a bunch of passive income streams. I'm not mad at money. Money can flow to me, not a problem. But that's not the only thing. And it's like, we're going to get the best programmer in the land, back to Silicon Valley. We're going to get the best programmer in the land, but they have to treat other people with respect, and imagine the ego, the lopsided power that would happen if you had the best programmer in the land come in, but then they believe they're the best programmer in the land and they treat everyone else like peasants. Is that the culture you want? And once that toxic person leaves, that culture is still damaged. Whole nother discussion. Emotional intelligence, this book is kind of like, again, the godfather of this discussion. So props to Daniel Goleman. If you want to get more insight based on the videos that I have, and this is actually featured in the playlist that I showed earlier, it's about comparative suffering hurts emotional intelligence. Very briefly, comparative suffering is saying that you're going through something and I'm going through something. I believe that what you're going through isn't as important or as damaging as that. And so because of that, I don't value and have as much empathy for your stuff. That's comparative suffering. Unfortunately, we do it every day. I think we learn to do that when we're kids. I think we learn to do that with so many different challenges and problems that we come across, and we look at someone else's problems and either we minimize what we're going through or we maximize what we're going through and minimize someone else's stuff. I get into this in this video. Video is like, I don't know, 8-9 minutes long, but it's one of the most popular videos on the channel. So check it out. It breaks down what emotional intelligence is. It's a good pairing to the book if you want to grab it. All right, so the next one is actually from a colleague of mine, excuse me, a colleague of mine from Inc. magazine. And his name is Justin Bariso, and it's EQ Applied. I want to say this came out, 2017, 2018, but very relevant. And he was cutting edge as far as bringing the EQ discussion to the Inc. audience. I have an Inc. column. I'll show it. Let me throw the thing up there. .com. Here we go. And let me throw the comment up there. There you go. So if you go to inkdamebrown.com, again, all of it's free, or most of it is free. There's a couple that they have behind the paywall. But you can check out my column. I'm approaching 600 columns on there. I've had the column for 6 years. He's actually, Justin's actually a colleague of mine. I've referenced him a few times in my column. But if you go to inkdamebrown.com, it'll take you to the Ink website. It'll highlight my column, but you can also get at Justin's very, very deep catalog. Like, he's prolific on there. I think he was on Ink well before I was. Anyway, EQ Applied, it says what it says. And I do not have a copy of the book with me, but I did read a copy many years ago. And it's just very straightforward. And I love, like, this is one of the best titles that I can think of right now, where it's just like, okay, we understand emotional intelligence and its culture and all that stuff, but how do I actually apply this? And it's an extremely practical book. I read right through it. It's very straightforward. And again, he's a fellow columnist for Inc. So he's used to talking to business audiences and taking these abstract concepts. And, I have my 2 startups. My second startup, Cuddler, ended up selling it while I was a stay-at-home dad with our first son. So from when my son was 4 months old to right after his second birthday, I was full-time startup entrepreneur, bootstrapping my companies. He, as well as I, are writing for that audience where we're not here to play around with y'all. That's why my show is less than a half an hour. That's why when you go to youtube.com/BrownDamon for the Bring Your Worst show, there's no show on there, I don't think, that's longer than 20 minutes that's pre-recorded. Most of those joints are like 5, 7, 10 minutes. We're not trying to play around with y'all because we want you to make impact in the world as soon as possible. You're already trying to make an impact on the world. We're not going to sit here and just talk to y'all for like hours at a time. Now, I could talk for hours, but I'm not going to do that to y'all. That's why my previous bestseller, The Ultimate Bite-Sized Entrepreneur, this is 76 chapters. Like, it's 76 joints in there, so you can just grab whatever you want. And so that's kind of the energy that Justin brings to the book. Again, I recommend it if you want a quick overview, and not even quick, but a practical, actionable tactics, as a lot of my friends say, a tactical overview of, okay, I understand EQ. What am I going to do with it? How does it apply to my business? I have a show that actually works well with this. It's How Not to Be a Vulnerable Leader. It actually does feature Brene Brown, who I mentioned earlier, in the playlist. And it's talking about what to share and what not to share. If you go to my newsletter at joindamon.me, or if you already subscribed to my newsletter, then you would have gotten a newsletter that I was talking about. I was talking about this video earlier. And it's so, so important to understand how you're going to show up. Because if you're showing up a certain way, but then you're expecting a different culture, that's not going to match up, particularly if you're a leader. I happen to be a solopreneur, so I don't have anyone, I don't have any employees, no one that I'm hiring. But those times when I had my startups and I was hiring or working with consultants, even with my coaching practice, again, I have my one-on-one coaching practice, and the type of people that I coach, because I don't coach everybody. So the type of people that I coach, and once we're in that coaching environment, I end up working with them. And I'm like, wow, like how I show up affects how they show up. How I show up affects how effective the coaching is going to be, right? Kind of like what I was talking about. I could be the quote unquote best coach in the world and have all this insight. But if I'm showing up in a funky way, and it's in a bad way, then it doesn't matter. It's like, well, Damon's not showing up like that, so I'm not going to show up like that. And regardless of the dynamics of mentor, mentee, coach, and the coach, father, and the kids, whatever dynamic is, regardless of the power dynamic, if people are showing up a certain way, that's going to affect everybody involved. That's just human nature. That's what EQ talks about. Again, EQ Applied by Justin Bariso is a good place to start. He just restarted his newsletter, so I think it comes like every week. But if you grab the book, you'll learn more about the newsletter. But he's trying to drop knowledge about EQ. And this video, which is part of Bring Your Worth, again, it's free to subscribe. That's some more game in that direction. All right, so my last recommendation, of course, is Rising Strong by Brené Brown. I consider Brené Brown the queen of the new school. Emotional intelligence, because she talks about heavy stuff, guilt, shame, reckoning, imbalance, power issues, like you name it, the messy stuff. But that messy stuff is part of us being human. And if we don't deal with the messy stuff, then our humanity starts to go away. If you're driven by shame, if you're driven by fear, if you're driven by guilt, then you're not going to be able to show up as your full self, because you'll be too. That's why these words exist. You'll be too ashamed to. You'll feel too guilty to actually get your prize and bring your worth. Again, the name of the show. You'll feel too conflicted to actually bring your best self. Very briefly, Rising Strong is about that moment when you fail, when something doesn't go your way, like in a big way. And it could be a private battle, it could be a very public battle. I've had both. Right? But they feel the same. And when you're getting back up and you get back into what she calls the arena, what gets you back up? Because you could have a choice. When I had major problems when I was doing my startups, I could have stopped, but I didn't. And then, my later startups ended up becoming really successful and ended up making a profit on them, and on the cover of the Wall Street Journal and all this crazy stuff that happened with my second startup, Cuddler. Her question is, well, why did you get back in the arena? Excuse me. Why? How? What was the methodology? Her background is psychology and sociology, so she wants data. She'll say that herself. She's a data-driven person. So it's like, so she wants that information. And it's like, so what are the details? What are the details? Rising Strong is about that, literally in the title. How do you rise strong? What happens? It's all about the gaps here when it comes to emotional intelligence. What happens in the gap of you getting knocked the heck out and then you being back on your feet, ready to try again? What happens in that mess in between? That's probably one of the reasons why I like coaching. It's probably one of the reasons why I like talking to y'all, is that I want to understand the mess too. And that's why Brené's book, her catalog is just ridiculous. Her catalog is great. Especially, I think her first book just came out like 10 years ago. Her catalog is deep and it is wide. This is by far my favorite book of hers. I think it's a great place to start. And she gets into the definition of what emotional intelligence is. And this video, which is part of, again, Bring Your Worth, you can subscribe for free. Man, this video is taking off. Like y'all have really responded where, again, I have a humble YouTube channel now, and y'all are loving this particular video. And it's simply, how can I accept others for who they are? And I break down Brene Brown's definition of that. And it gets to emotional intelligence. The video is like 6 minutes long. Just watch it. Just watch it, because a lot of y'all are feeling it. And based on the feedback that I'm getting from everybody that's subscribed or is coming through, just passing by the channel, this is the video. Like, for real, if you look at numbers, like, this is a video that has resonated with a lot of people. Maybe all the people that have come through to my channel. So check it out if you want to understand, again, emotional intelligence deeper. So again, my name is Damon Brown. I'm author of the new book, Built From Now, How to Know Your Power, See Your Abundance, and Nourish the World. Thank you all for all the support. If you want to learn more about the book, come over and take the free quiz at builtfromnowquiz.com. We're almost at 1,000 people. I keep saying we, it's just me. I'm almost at 1,000 people who have taken it, and we, as far as our community, yeah, y'all are feeling it. I'm so thankful to be able to give that insight to y'all and hopefully help you on your journey. If you want to learn even more about the new book, Built From Now, check out my new TED Talk. You can click on the link right there. I won't even go through the details, like bit.ly, blah, blah. Sorry, TED doesn't make it easy for me, but there is that little sub link there. You can go and click on that. And if you want to read the ink column, it's over at inkdamebrown.com. Again, the catalog is deep with that one. And today we're talking about bringing your worth and how to raise your EQ, and the books that I mentioned off the top, because I know sometimes people forget. It's Emotional Intelligence by the godfather of, at least pop culturally, EQ, and that would be Daniel Goleman. Check it out. It was a bestseller for a reason, and we're still leaning on that. Justin Barisso's book, EQ Applied. It's quick, it's dirty, it's simple, it's easy to understand. So if you're like, man, I don't want to go that deep with EQ, but I need to apply it to my life, grab this book. And lastly, one of my favorite thought leaders, if you want to use that word, those words right now, Brene Brown, Rising Strong. I love her catalog. I think I have all of her books. This is my favorite book of hers, and this is where I recommend you start. And lastly, one last shout out to my most popular video on the channel, which is about Brene Brown talking about how can I accept others for who they are. That might be a good primer and a good start for emotional intelligence. And the video is 7 minutes long. Come through and check it out. Thanks for all the folks that came through and commented, Nanette and the rest of y'all. I appreciate y'all. Remember that you can always bring your worth and that you can always build from now. Take care.